Hope is here. The way to break free with your host, Angela Pedigo, will light a flame within you. Host Angela Pedigo is an author, speaker, and certified life recovery, grief, and joy restoration coach. Angela uses her own life experiences to help you navigate and guide you to success. She also has developed tools that incorporate her faith and her drive to overcome any obstacle in life. So please welcome the host of The Way to Break Free, Angela Pedigo.
Welcome, everybody, to The Way to Break Free. I'm your host, Angie Pedigo. I'm so glad you could join us today. We are in for a treat. We have my special guest, Miss Gidget Troutt, with us today. Gidget and I have known each other for several years now, but she is the author of an amazing program called The Broken Princess. And she created this. You're going to hear this story all about this program, how it's changed her life, how it changes so many people's lives, and hopefully maybe you can find a place to implement that in your own programs. If you are running like recovery homes or trauma-based programs where you help with other people. So we're going to dive into that. Gidget, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm looking forward to this.
Me too.
Yeah, we talked a little bit before, and just scratching the surface about what we were going to talk about today, and I can't wait to hear more. So, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, my name is Gidget Troutt, and I have an associate's degree in sociology, study of human behavior. I did 8 years as an equine specialist, and then now I'm SEO at Sumner County Jail. I'm a single mom of 3 beautiful babies, and I'm just living every day by God's grace. I'm the author of Broken Princess program, and that's where my heart is at. My heart is to help women find healing. So
yes, tell us how the program. Well, first of all, tell us about the program.
So Broken Princess program is a program that was created for women. It's a trauma navigation guide. It's a program that's designed and created to help women heal through their trauma. And so it takes women through different parts of the castle and helps them identify each part of their castle for themselves. And as they walk through each part of their castle, they identify a different part of themselves. And so as they do that, through that journey, they learn a different part of who they are, what they struggle with, what they can learn to overcome, and how they can learn to overcome that. And then they get through to the courtyard, which is the outer parts of the castle. And by the time they get there, they should have a better understanding of who they are as a person.
Yes.
Yeah.
We use this program in one of our coaching centers, and we take it into our county jail, and it's almost like watching them be able to go back to that child and grow up through their castle and to come out the strong woman on the other side of it.
Yeah.
With an understanding of themselves. So
yes.
It's amazing. Tell us how this program got started.
So at the time, the way Broken Princess program was born was I was doing equine assisted psychotherapy at the time with the Papillon Center in Gallatin, Tennessee, and I was working with the mental health professionals out in the arena with my horses, and I had a whole day of teenage girls that were coming out to do equine assisted psychotherapy, and every single one of them were self-harmers. They were all cutters, and we probably had 8 or 9 clients that day.
Wow.
And every single one of them were cutting themselves and inflicting self-harm some sort of way. And it was just a heavy day. And I just remember leaving devastated and thinking, there's got to be something for them. And I started researching later that night, and I couldn't find anything for cutters or self-harmers that was really something I could, start implementing right away. And just weighed heavy on me. And I was in college at the time, and I remember going to school the next day And that's all I could think about. And Broken Princess just kind of, it was a godsend. It was just something that God just, like, if he sent it down through a beam of light, that's how it came down to me. It was like, boom. And it completely consumed me. I could not focus on school. When I got home, I couldn't focus on being a mom. The house was a mess. Dinner needed done. Nothing. I locked myself in my bedroom. I sat down with my computer, and I started creating Broken Princess program. And I knew that that's what it needed to be called, because people know when they're in a hard place, and people know when they feel broken. And I started with the secret passageways of the castle. And I started with the drawbridge and the dungeon, and I think the princess tower, and maybe like the open corridors. I think I put together like 5 or 6 pieces of the program, and under the understanding that I'm a daddy's girl. So
Yes.
I've always been a daddy's girl, and my daddy's always called me his princess. But more than that, I come from a father who loves me, and my God has always loved me, and I've always been a princess of the one true king, right?
Yes.
And so my body is a temple. And so I think deep down, the Broken Princess Trauma Navigation Guide has always been my personal blueprint, but I just hadn't put it on paper yet.
Yes.
And so it was in this moment that I had to get it out and get it on paper, right?
Yes.
And so
Did you realize it had been your blueprint before you wrote it, or was like an aha moment after you got it all
once
out?
I got it out on paper, I was like, oh, of course. Like, this makes sense. And the more I would walk people through the program, the more I was like, this is it. And since creating the program, I've walked myself through it so many times. I mean, I use it every day because I will catch myself like, okay, why am I in the secret passage today? What's gotten me here? Or I'm going to do, just this morning, I was in the kitchen cutting a tag off of a shirt so that I wasn't hiding out in the secret passageways because I got sensory issues, and I didn't want to itch all day. And it's just little things that I've learned about myself that help me be a functioning adult in society. But it's because of this blueprint that I've been able to create. And I'm a child from a hard place, right? But most of us are children from hard places. And most of us are women who have come from some sort of trauma. And so we're able to it started with the girls in the arena who were cutters, but we've been able to shape it and form it to anybody who's come through trauma, right? And walk them through the Broken Princess program. And so that's kind of what it is. It's walking through each part of the castle and sitting in that part for however long you need to, and identifying the different parts of that one room in that castle. And who controls that part of that castle, or why does it exist, or why do you go there, and really gaining an understanding of yourself.
Yeah. And
it's a deep dive within self. Yeah.
Yes, it is. We've seen so much success with it, using it with the girls that are coming through addictions, which generally addictions how you handle trauma.
Yes.
It's just another way.
Just another way to numb.
Yes, and when you started out with cutters, some self-harm involves addiction. It involves different behaviors. People choose differently how they handle their trauma, but the root is always that trauma.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The one thing that I think people love the most, Gidget, about this that I've seen is the fact they get to draw it.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of things that they can't seem to find the words to explain or express how they feel. But when you're sitting there with coloring pencils on this table and you can actually draw out what it's like as you're exploring it and knowing that the colors even represent things, but you don't realize it until you start sharing what you just drew and why you drew it that way. I have watched women in their drawings be able to find their words, to express, okay, I understand it now, and now I can express it where they couldn't express it before. And the freedom that they get in that moment, it's like, now I get it.
That's so beautiful, and it's that inner child work, right? Like,
yes,
here's some colored pencils and some crayons, and you don't have to think. Sometimes words are hard, and sometimes they're just not there. But here's a blank sheet of paper, and you don't really have to think. You can just create.
Yeah.
And what a beautiful way to express yourself, right?
Yes.
And then we can look at that and say, okay, well, this is what that's showing me. Or you were talking earlier about the drawbridge.
Yes.
That's part of the castle. Well, when we talk about the drawbridge, that's where we teach about boundaries. And the drawbridge comes up, or does the drawbridge come down? And when it comes down, are we allowing people to come into the castle, or are we just meeting people halfway on the drawbridge, or are we going out to meet them, or allowing them all the way into the castle? A lot of people aren't taught boundaries, especially if they come from a place of trauma or abuse or neglect. And so why not take the time to teach young women and adults about boundaries, and that they exist, and that they're allowed to have them, and that there's nothing wrong with having boundaries. Because some of them are like, oh, I can say that, I can do that. Absolutely. This is your castle.
Yes.
You are allowed to do that. And so there's a lot of freedom that comes with that. And
I know that boundaries are a big misconception with a lot of people. And in coaching, I find a lot of times people won't set boundaries, especially family members. Sometimes it's really hard with our parents to set them with grown children. Sometimes it's hard for children to set them, or children who've been through trauma as adults, to set them with other people. And they're always, especially if you're like a people pleaser, it's really hard to set boundaries. But boundaries are not meant to box that person in. And I think a lot of times people think, if I have boundaries, then I don't want to be controlling, and I don't want to tell them what they can and can't do. You're not. You're just saying, this is what will and will not go on in my space.
Yeah.
And the Broken Princess program, when it comes to that drawbridge, puts a visual to that space. It says, if you cross this fence, you are in my temple space. This is what will and won't go on in my space. I'm not saying you can't go do whatever you want to do, but you're going to have to go do it somewhere else.
Absolutely.
And so it's not controlling anyone. It's just we guard, we will protect what we value. And if we don't learn to value ourselves, then we don't protect it. And we will teach others how to treat us by the way we treat us. If we compromise our boundaries, then, I can say that I have them, but if I don't hold them, I can't expect you to hold them if I want to hold them up myself. There's a huge lesson in that whole piece of the Broken Princess program.
Absolutely.
I absolutely love. But I love the fact there's a visual with it, because it really embeds a vision in their mind,
Yep. And you can talk about it all day, but when they see it and when they're able to draw it themselves, or not draw it, depending on where they're at, in their journey, it kind of hits different.
It becomes personal.
It does.
Yes.
It does. Yes. And so there's a lot of drawing, a lot of artwork in the Broken Princess. And we do Train the Trainer with the Broken Princess program, where we train the facilitators on how to walk a group or even a single person through the Broken Princess program. Because looking at the Broken Princess book, it's a very simple book. But walking someone through the program, there's a lot of detail to it. And so Train the Trainer is about how to do that. And that's what we did with y'all, obviously.
Yes. And it just can keep being paid forward.
Yeah.
Tell
That's the goal.
us a little bit. We talked about this a little bit before. A success story that you can share about someone who's went through it.
Well, I recently started a new chapter working at Sumner County Jail, and we used to run the Broken Princess program there. I think it was like 16, 17, and 18, if I'm correct.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah, pre-COVID, absolutely. And we had some incredible princesses that ran that program there. And now I'm working there as a corrections officer. And so my lieutenant, who's my boss, is also my big sister. So, but she was one who helped us get the Broken Princess in there at the jail. And it was such a phenomenal time of running it there. But I was kind of fresh on the scene, as a CO, as a corrections officer. And she called me over the radio and said she wanted me to come see her. And she was having me follow her somewhere. And I thought, where on earth are we going? She said, I want you to see the effects of someone. And she took me to the clerk's area, and there was a female there, and I recognized her immediately as one of the princesses who had run the program, and she looked so good. And she saw me, and she's teared up, and she gave me a big hug, and she said, I just want to thank you so much. Your program changed my life. She said, I want you to know that I am on the straight and narrow. I have cleaned up my life, and I'm here paying my last and final fee. And I am one that they said, was going to be here, and I was going to stay here. And that was the path that I was on. And she said, I tell everybody about you. I tell everybody about the program, and I use it every day. And she said, I just want you to know that it changed my life. And I was like, I am so happy to meet you. I can't believe that I get to hear your story. I'm so glad that it helped you. We're all just sobbing, and I'm supposed to, be this like tough CEO, and I'm just in tears, and we're just holding each other. And it was just a full circle, such a heartfelt moment of something that I had done, and with the help of others, obviously, my mom at the Papillon Center, my sister making efforts of getting the Broken Princess program in the jail, and us pouring into those females and showing up and doing that for them. It mattered, and it changed her life, and she used it still as a blueprint, and she was there. And just to catch her, you know, and for my sister to see her, and for me to be there that day, and for it to be the last time she's paying that last fee, and to be able to give her a hug and wish her the best, and to be able to say that I was so proud of her, and to love on her. And I mean, that's what it's all about.
Yes.
That's why Broken Princess was created.
Yes.
And
you're not even talking a year gap there. Like, this has been years since you went through the program, right?
Absolutely. I mean,
5 to 7 years, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's a lasting effect.
That's a lasting effect.
Yes.
And that's how significant it is, because it gets to the root of the problem.
Yes.
It gets to the trauma. And that's what she said. She had done AA. She had done NA. She had done all these other programs. And nothing helped her, because it didn't get to the root of the problem. It didn't address her trauma. But Broken Princess does that.
Yes.
It has you sit with it.
Yes.
You don't have to hide it. You don't have to shove it under the rug. You don't have to pretend it doesn't exist or doesn't matter. It's a part of you.
Yes.
You're allowed to know every inch of who you are.
Yep.
And be okay with that, because it's who you are.
Yes.
It's not wrong. It's trauma that happened to you, but you can heal from that. And we teach women how to heal from that in the Broken Princess program.
Yes.
We take them through the hard stuff, but then we take them to that higher tower.
Yes.
We take them to the throne room.
Yes.
We don't leave them in the dungeon. You know, and that's how it is. That's how they find their healing.
Yes.
We sit with them.
Yes.
I don't mean get all teared up.
I love it.
Sorry.
Keep going, because it's so inspiring.
But that's how it is. I mean, we understand that the hard stuff is there, and we sit with them in the hard stuff.
Yes.
And then we say, let me show you how you can get the key and how you can unlock the key, the door to this dungeon.
Yes.
Like, you hold the key to your dungeon, and let me help you find your way out. You know, because you know, Hollywood sells a story that the knight in shining armor is going to come save them.
Yes.
They can save themselves.
We are going to take a quick break right here, and we will be right back.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back from the break. Gidget, as you were talking about all this, I've witnessed that, like the testimony of that girl with a lot of the ones that we have worked with. You know, they've done programs, they've been through things that, you know, are good tools for them, but if it doesn't hit that root, it's not affecting anything. It's trying to sustain life, you know, whether it's a recovery program or, you know, some other kind of therapy or whatever. It's trying to sustain or deal with the effects of the trauma. But if you don't get to the trauma, then you're just trying to maintain life.
Yes.
And I have seen girls come through this that have shared with me they've been through so much counseling, they've been through so much therapy, they're just not hitting it for some reason, and then literally sit there, and it never fails. There is one aha moment in some room as you're going through all of this castle that unlocks something for them, to the point that where they were refusing any more therapy or counseling because they weren't getting to that point or what they needed. Then they were ready to embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually had a behavioral health facility that works with our girls in the jail. And one of the therapists has shared there and said they're usually not receptive to help as much, but once they've gone through that Broken Princess program, then they want to work on themselves. They're ready to do it, because you can't fix what you don't know is broken.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And
though,
if you find it, then now that I can see it, let's do something about it. And the motivation that gives them, the help to keep going, you know,
Mm-hmm.
these programs all work so well. It's like just, you know, weaving a something together, but it's such an instrumental part. We have girls that will do the moral recognition therapy in the jail, the MRT programs,
Mhm.
better known as. But they talk about how that is so good for them about how to live their life going forward, where Broken Princess helps them to figure out their past and like getting to the roots of that. So together, it is phenomenal at, it's almost like, okay, let's do the total healing package here,
Yeah.
it's really, really been instrumental. They share how a lot of them, I had one of the people that helps with the work release programs in the jail state too, that, they always know that those girls that have completed that program generally do well on their jobs. Like that's one of the things they look for because they know they've put that effort in,
Mhm.
and it does take effort. It's voluntary. You have to
Mhm.
choose to be in the program. Nobody's making you do it.
Right.
And you're intentional with it,
Mhm.
and not everybody makes it through it, but those that do, it's almost like you hear people talk about a vision board. And if you just draw out your vision board and hang it up so it gives you something to set your sights on,
Mhm.
by the time they get through the end of that program, that courtyard, they've got that outer courtyard.
Yeah.
We've got this safety drawbridge, of the courtyard being like their front and backyard all around their
Yeah.
castle, that it's beautiful. What started out as so dark is beautiful and bright.
Yeah.
It's becoming their vision board. They'll say, I'm going to have this. This
Yeah.
is where I'm going.
Oh, they change how they speak to others and
Yes.
themselves, and how they dream about the future and everything.
Absolutely.
It 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 kind of sets their whole mindset on a different path.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell us how Broken Princess has helped you. You said you work it and you use it all the time, and it's kind of been the pattern for your life.
Yeah.
How has it helped you navigate some things in life?
I think Broken Princess was kind of my blueprint all along without even realizing it was. It wasn't until we started implementing, and I was like, this is just what I use, and then once it was on black and white, and I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And sometimes I won't even um, realize, like, sometimes, when you're like having a bad day and you don't realize, like, I've been in the dungeon today, and you don't realize it until the end of the day. Like, oh man, today's been a dungeon day. Why? I need to go back and figure out where I got off track. So for me, it just kind of puts things in perspective of, this is where I've been at today. Let me reassess how I got here. Let me reassess what I need to do to get out of here. Or let me go spend some time in the throne room, and get back on track. Or let me go spend some time in the open corridors and go socialize with some people so I'm not isolating myself. It kind of helps me just put things in perspective, I think, a little bit. That's kind of just how my brain works, I think, a little bit. Or I can say, hey, I've been overstimulated today. I might have heard too much or seen too much, and I need to use my secret passageways tonight because I've been a little overstimulated. And so I think it was just something I kind of used without realizing I was using it. And then when I got it out on black and white, it just made so much sense to me. And then I thought that it could make sense to other women. And we started using it, like I said, originally for cutters and self-harmers. And 4 out of 5 of the girls that were cutting would stop cutting after they would do the Broken Princess program. I mean, it was working really quickly. And then we just decided we could tweak this a little bit, and self-harm works in all kinds of ways. And so we just wanted to overall make it a trauma navigation guide for women. And so that's why we kind of took it more like the cutting stuff out and just put more like self-harm stuff in.
I don't get to hear a lot of the stories we see the aha moments, and we see the, okay, this is where they've gotten to. And, then a lot of times they're going on to work other programs,
Mhm.
things like that. But you sitting here describing how you use it on a daily basis of navigating, what room have I been in today? And what room do I need to spend some time in tonight? And the way you're describing that almost sounds like a good navigation tool to like head off anxiety and depression, or how to acknowledge anxiety, and maybe how to head off the depressive dungeon, going into that slope of depression. Would you say that it works to help navigate that?
I think it works for me.
Yes.
And I put it out there and created this program so that it could help just one female. If it could help one person to come out of their trauma and to use this as a guide, then that's what its purpose was. And lo and behold, it has helped so many women. And I'm so grateful for that. And I'm so proud of that.
Did you ever think it would help this many avenues? I mean, besides just cutters, you had in mind, it was on your heart for cutters, but did you ever think
I had it on my heart to help women? That's what my passion is to help women. I wanted my brother has always said this to my mom when it came to the Papillon Center, and he said, build it past you, build it bigger than you and past you. And I wanted to do that with Broken Princess. I wanted to build it bigger than me and past me, so that one day it would have a life of its own. And I didn't care who used it. I just wanted anybody to be able to pick it up and use it. And I'm so glad that has happened. I didn't know if anything would happen with it. It's just one of those things, you kind of put it out there. And when I created it, which my mom is the director and founder of the Papillon Center, and I called her up and I was like, hey, I just made something and I just emailed it to you. You get a chance, take a look. I think she was at a conference or on a trip. She travels a lot, and she immediately looked at it, and she called me back and she was like, this is incredible. I love this. We're going to do something with this right away. And I had no idea where it would go. And I encourage people far and wide and near and far to use it. So I've never thought, this is mine. No, you can't. I've never been stingy with it. I've always said, yes, take it, go do it. Because if it can help just one, that's the whole purpose of it being there. But yeah, I use it just as much as anybody,
Right.
So
I can totally relate to that.
Absolutely. I'm like, hey, I haven't eaten today. Maybe I should, go hit the Great Hall or something.
Yeah.
And so
that's awesome. So the train the trainer.
Yes.
Which, if you guys, you may have seen the episode, but her mom, Chris Troutt, has also been on here talking about the Papillon Center and everything that it exists for today. So you guys do the trainer for the Broken Princess, which means that people can be trained to walk through this program with people. That's what you guys did with us in our nonprofit center, is you walked through it with us and then educated us how to walk through it with other people. And you kind of like serve as some oversight for that for us too. And it's been an absolute like gift that keeps on giving kind of thing. So this is so good for recovery centers, recovery homes, in your county jails. Maybe you're an administrator, you're watching this and you have some kind of role in your county jails, or, prisons, anywhere where there's people who are coming from broken places. And even in your church groups, like there are women that sit silently in our churches every week that are broken. And what better place to implement that program to help them heal through that is to spend a women's weekend retreat or something, to do this program and implement it. And I mean, the church should be serving as the hospital, right? So what better place to do that? So wherever your organization is, I encourage you to check them out. Check this out. The Papillon Center, they will come and train. If they is that correct? They
Mm-hmm.
still will
Yeah,
go. Chris and the
we'll do
team, you
that.
guys will go and train them how to do that. Get everybody started, and then you're ready to run with it. And it is absolutely life changing. I mean, literally life changing. Bondage breaking, you name it. It's chains are falling off, and you're watching it right before your eyes. So I encourage you to do that. And also, if you're watching today from somewhere and you can post comments there, if you want more information about that, put it in the comments there. We'll make sure that you get that information for your organizations and send that out. From a train the trainer standpoint, just so they kind of know, what does that look like? Like what all is involved in that?
So we train the facilitators how to walk through the Broken Princess program. You will do some of your own hard work on it. So you'll have to walk through some of the Broken Princess program, some of the different parts of the castle. Um, you'll have to do some of the drawings. Basically, we kind of walk you through it, much like we did with your group. A little bit more on like a faster scale than you would with somebody that's like, I don't know how you do it with the females at the jail. Sometimes if you're walking with just one person, you can really kind of take your time as long as that person needs to sit in that different areas at the castle. Sometimes when you're working with a group, you got to move them along. But when you're doing train the trainer, you typically move them through a lot faster just to get them acquainted with the Broken Princess program, to teach them what they would be doing with the participant, the do's and don'ts on basically how to facilitate it, not to leave somebody hanging in this area for too long, how quickly we move them through this area or how much we stay in this other area, parts that we do drawings, areas that we don't do drawings, those kind of things like that.
Yes.
So it goes really into depth about that kind of stuff.
Yes, and I encourage you to be
definitely like questions to ask. That's a big thing that's in the train the trainer. All the questions that you would ask and key points that you would bring up to the participant is all in the train the trainer.
Yes, and you won't find that in the book.
Right.
Like that's
Right.
the key point of doing the train the trainer is because
Yes.
there's so much more for the one that's going to be facilitating or
Yes.
walking through it with them to receive. So
Yes.
then, just the book. It is very, very instrumental in the success of the program. And yeah, the way we do it is, we'll have a group of 6 to 8 ladies, and sometimes we do it one-on-one with people, in the office. But we usually have a group of 6 to 8 ladies, and that's a good size. Like it's not too many to manage, but we usually spend an hour and a half, 2 hours, and it takes once a week, and it takes about 6 weeks or so. You might get hung up on a lesson that's a little harder for some, and so somewhere between 4 weeks and 8 weeks, we'll say they would complete it if you spent like an hour and a half a week, or you can spend a long time. It's a lot of heavy stuff though to sit in for one spell. So sometimes it's good for them to go process what they're uncovering too.
Absolutely.
And it's just so
they'll
powerful.
sit with it. They'll sit with it until you bring them back. But there's definitely it's the train the trainer is a great guide for the facilitator because it gives them all the things that could come up, all the things that they can process with that participant, all the questions to ask, all the details that you said are not in the book, that it's way more detailed.
Yes, it is. You would definitely want to do that. So I encourage you guys to check that out for sure. What is so funny, it's had such an impact on the girls in the jail that the male inmates, a lot of them see the impact and the excitement that the girls are having, and they're like, when are we going to get to do this Broken Prince program? And you do have a version now for the men, right?
Yes, we do have the Broken Prince program.
Awesome.
It is out there and is is available. So, the Broken Princess program, Broken Princess book is actually for sale on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
It's a book that I wrote. I don't sell it as much because we're trying to just do the train the trainer and do a whole package deal with that, right? Do it all as like one big thing. And honestly, my heart is for the women. I feel like that's where I'm being called to help women heal and help women through their trauma. But there was such a need for the men. So Broken Prince was born. Its lingo is different. More of like a manly kind of like military lingo in it, so it sounds different. The idea is the same.
Is it a castle?
It
still
is
centered around the castle.
It's still the idea is still the same. So the layout is a little bit different, but yes, it is out there. It does exist.
Yes.
We haven't ran it like we have the Broken Princess, so there's not as much, pre and post tests. There's not as much. There's not nearly the stories.
Well, it hasn't existed as long either. It's fairly new, right?
It is. Yeah.
Yes, I think that's fantastic.
But maybe one day we'll be talking about it, and it'll have its day in the spotlight too.
Yes, yes. But you guys will do Train the Trainer on that as well, too, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you're a women's facility, a men's facility. And you know what, guys, it's okay to not be okay. Just like for women, it's okay to not be okay. You had shared a story with me about the name, and you knew there was supposed to be Broken Princess, and there was a child that had to claim her brokenness.
Yes.
What was that like? Can you share that with us?
Yes. So we were discussing Broken Princess, and I had known from the start it was supposed to be called Broken Princess, and we were discussing this out loud, and I had she's a friend of the family, and she had said, well, I don't think it should be called Broken Princess because my daughter is not broken, and her daughter immediately she stepped up and she said, yes, I am.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
She said, yes, I am, Mom. And I need this. And I just thought, it was so heartfelt, and it was so genuine, and it was so true that she was in such a place of desperation, of needing help and wanting help and being true to her brokenness, that she was able to say, yes, I am broken and I need this. And that was okay.
Yes.
And I think that we are especially now in this fake society, where everything's got a filter on it and nothing's real anymore. And we're in this glammed up, unrealistic phase in our lifetime where we are not allowed to be real. We're not allowed to be authentic. We're not allowed to be angry. We're not allowed to be broken. The truth is, yes, we are. And we are human, and we are still loved by the grace of God.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't change our worthiness, our preciousness. Okay. And it doesn't change our value based on the brokenness within us, based on the trauma that we've endured. Like you were talking earlier about our valueness, just because we have brokenness. But it's okay for us to say that we're broken or that we're from a hard place or in a hard place, because we're not going to be able to move on from that until we're able to do an assessment of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what Broken Princess is we're going to do an assessment of this area.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to do another assessment of this area.
Mm-hmm.
And then and by the time we're done doing an assessment of all of these areas,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to have a better understanding of who we are as a person.
Absolutely.
And we're going to be able to walk through with our head held high.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to know who we are. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And it can have its chips and its bruises and its scratches. And it doesn't have to be completely without flaw.
Yes.
But we know what it is and we know who it is. And I think that that's what it's been for me.
Mm-hmm.
I know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I know who I am because I live Broken Princess. And I do the assessments on a daily basis.
And you had said something earlier. You said it's not that I'm not going to go through fires after that, but I know who I am and who walks with me through those fires.
Yes.
And you'll get through them because you know who you are.
Yeah.
And identity is huge.
Identity is huge. And there's so many people walking around on this planet that don't know who they are.
Yes. And that is one of the key things that is a catalyst for healing. We're going to pause right here. This is a good moment too. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality? But it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating. Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. Yeah, it feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
I have been sitting here, Gidget, over the break thinking about how to help parents catch or understand or recognize, I don't even know what the word is really, that there may be brokenness in their child. And like to set those feelings aside for just a moment and to be able to say, okay, what do we need to do to get help? Like, I'm here for you. I'm here to help you. What can we do about that? I think because of generations in the past, it was so taboo. You could not talk about trauma. You couldn't talk about hard places. And we've bred, more generations of that. Sometimes it's a fear of stigma, or it's a fear of, what is that going to mean? Or that's okay. It's okay to not be okay. And it doesn't mean that you are going to stay not okay for the rest of your life. You could if you don't get the proper help that you need. But if you don't, this is what life could be like. So you've probably seen a lot, just in your working with, girls and teens and and things like that through the years. What advice would you give parents of how to help them?
Oh, that's a tough one. Probably my biggest advice I would give is connect before you correct.
Ooh, that is good.
We're pretty quick to correct, but these little devices we hold in our hands, and our kids have them too. And I had to do this personally with my own son. I'll tell you that right now. He is 16 now. And about the time he hit a teenager, I felt him pulling away. We started butting heads. Every little thing was taken defensively and personally. And I thought, oh no, I'm losing him. Lord, don't let me lose my son. Because I could just feel us drifting apart and I couldn't stand it. And we're big nerds in my house. We just are. We're not athletic type. We're nerds. And he got really big into Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's very detailed. There's lots of cards. There's lots of figurines and stuff like that. And he came to me one day and he said, I wanted to learn how to be a dungeon master, but I don't have anybody to play with me. And I just, heard in my ear like this, or in my head, like, this is your opportunity. And I said, well, I will. And that turned into a 2.5-year campaign that we both became obsessed with. Okay. And I became very good at Dungeons and Dragons. And I threw him quite a few curveballs, I will say. And I fell in love with the game, which I never anticipated doing. But we connected on a level that I never anticipated. But because we connected, I was able to connect with him before there was correction, right? And I can still correct, but I'm coming in for a hug and I'm loving on him and saying, son, I love you. I hope you have the best day ever. No, I already told you once to take out the trash. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now, it just doesn't always work all the time. And sometimes, I have to put my foot down a little bit harder. Right. But we need connection. And we live in a society, again, where there's not a whole lot of that.
Yes. And
we are connected socially through social media. But how many parents are holding their kids' hands anymore?
Yes.
How many children are getting their sensory needs met through touch, through hugs, through story times at bed, the things that they need, other than just the iPad. So connect, and then you're going to build from there. So if you haven't taken the time to connect with them, then you're not going to be able to correct anything.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Or it's going to be harder. Not that you're not going to be able to, but it's going to be harder too. And I learned that through my own experience. And part of what Chris Troutt teaches at the Papillon Center through TBRI.
Yes.
The TBRI, one of the things that they teach there is the connect before you correct.
Yes.
And it's changed the way that I parent. Instead of leaning over my 5-year-old, I got to remember to get down on my knees and get eye to eye with her. Instead of being a big scary monster,
yes.
Get down on her level where we're the same size.
And you talked about devices, and
yes.
A lot of times that brokenness that child may be experiencing is coming through that device that the parent can't see. So they assume the brokenness is not there, it's non-existent. Well, they haven't been through anything. We think we know our children, but we don't know what they're experiencing at school. We don't know what they're experiencing in those phones, in those, whatever it is. But they're not going to open up and share that either if we're not connected. So it just all comes back full circle to connection.
Sometimes even if we are connected, sometimes it's not something that they're going to share with us.
Yes, yes. So
brokenness is so easily hidden, and it's something that we all deal with.
Yes.
So,
Gidget, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank
It
you.
has been so insightful. I know a lot of people listening that have been through the Broken Princess program are going to love just getting to today. I know what she's talking about. I did that, and to know the source of where it came from. So thank you for coming on and sharing your wisdom, your insight, and just the inspiration of it all. There again, if you are a facility that is looking for a program to help your folks deal with trauma, put it in the comments. I'd like more information. Anything like that, reach out and hopefully we can connect you guys to get that going. You are watching The Way to Break Free on Bold Brave TV. I thank you for tuning in today. Like, subscribe, follow from wherever you're listening, and you can catch us live each week. We'll see you next time.
This has been The Way to Break Free with your host, Angela Pedigo. The one thing Angela attributes her personal victories to is her relationship with God and her deep faith. Tune in each week and hear stories and testimonies of people in personal and professional trenches and how they overcome them with their own faith in God. The Way to Break Free has something for everyone, everywhere. Right here, Wednesdays, noon Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.